back in the day when I was a youngster, my twin brother and I used to listen to or watch little programs on TV, such called Teletubbies. We were watching Teletubbies one day, and I had the squirrel, and he was moving around me, jumping around me, and all of a sudden he jumps on the floor, and the door was open a little bit, and my father's Rottweiler came into the room and just ate my squirrel. It was really sad day of my life. I don't mean to share that with you, but I was really quite upset because I really did love that squirrel. But yeah. It's just the way the world works sometimes. And I'm glad I could have told the story about Monty. He would have loved that, He was a very positive squirrel. But while I carry on talking about my positive squirrels, we're going to go and see how James is doing. See you later.
Everybody, there are two Egyptian gooses, and they are swimming in what I think is just a very beautiful little setting. We're at Treehouse Dam here, and this is a rather sort of countrified, less wild scene than one might expect here. Two ducks swimming gently around a pond, which I suppose is something you might expect to see in the British countryside, perhaps, as opposed to the wilds of Africa. But we do have these marvelously peaceful little scenes from time to time, and that is a couple of Egyptian geese. They will have hopefully produced some little babies here over the course of the next little while. I think they're fairly non-seasonal breeders, so maybe they'll have some youngsters. Just having a little bit of water there. And I don't know if you can see it now. The light is fading, unfortunately, going behind a cloud. But they've got the most beautiful golden yellow eyes. Can't really see that, can you, Jean-Louis? Mm-hmm. Or you're at full zoom. Mm-hmm. So you can sort of see it from there, but I've never noticed it before, probably because I wasn't looking through binoculars of the standard. Wonderful. Okay, we're not far from where Tingana was, so let's go across there and see if we can't find him. Something truly hilarious apparently happened in the final control just before we went live, and all I got from the final control when they told us that we were going live was live, and so then we started speaking about the geese. I'm not sure what happened. I'm not sure what Sam said that was so funny. Here's the leopard. Here are his tracks, Jean-Louis. Let's just reverse slowly. I suspect quite strongly he would have gone down towards the water to have a drink. I'm just going to drive around the edge of the dam here, and these might not be that fresh. Errol, while we do this, let's just do a brief investigation of this area. You're asking a question that I think is on many people's minds, and that is, would we ever dart him and then, sort of treat his injuries? And the answer is no, we wouldn't. Unless they were caused by an anthropogenic effect, i.e. unless they were caused by a man-made injury, it's unlikely that we would ever do anything. So I think this was probably a hyena that got him, and I think because of that, we would more than likely just leave him to sort of suffer whatever fate nature had intended. And now, although the injury looked quite nasty yesterday, like I say, the animals out here are tremendously resilient. And so the chances of him being okay and getting through whatever injury it is are actually very strong, very high. Now, what I'm expecting to see is just some spots under the bushes here. Mainly because I don't think he would have gone very far. So let's just drive slowly around here. He won't lie too close to the water because, of course, lots of other animals may come down to drink. But he probably would like to be around here. If that is his tracks, I'm pretty sure they are his tracks. It's a male leopard not far from where he was yesterday. And then he may well have headed back up that drainage line. So let's just keep an eye out here. We will go back to where he was, just in case those were from an earlier time, but I think those were pretty fresh, especially as we've had a very windy time of it. Okay, we're going to spend a bit of time looking around here. Let's go across to Sam. He's at an interesting termite mound. I hope it's as funny as the last one.
Here we are with a termite mound. Just before I get on to the termite mound, I just want to say that if my sister's watching, I'm really sorry about leaving that door open when we were 10 years old and letting the Rottweiler in and losing our favorite little Monty. If you are listening, I think you are listening today, JD. But here we are with our termite mound, and it's a beautiful looking termite mound. You can see that it's an active termite mound. The way in which we can understand that it's active is because you can see that there's dirt that's been collected and put. So you can see a big difference between the color of that over there to the color of here. And often with an inactive termite mound, you'll find that there are holes in the termite mound in very, very significant places. So this is an active termite mound, and termite mounds are exceptionally interesting. You know, they're home to termites, of course, which are, you know, you get different types of termites. But the one thing that's super interesting is the way in which the fungus-growing termites hold these structures. And these structures, the design aspect of these structures are incredible. The way in which the termites have built the structure is incredible, and I'll tell you why. It's because they are trying to regulate the temperature at around 32 degrees Celsius. So that's incredible. The reason why they're doing that is because below, where the fungus growing substance at the bottom is, they are trying to regulate that temperature at 32 degrees, and that'll help look after the food. So this is basically a structure like a building where they have their own built-in air conditioning. So our buildings don't have that. We have to go and buy air conditioner and bring it in and then to cool our buildings. But we can really learn from a termite mound the way in which they regulated it at 32 degrees Celsius. That is a lot more efficient, it's a lot more sustainable, and it's better for our environment. And it's actually been copied and replicated in Harare with a building. It's called the Eastgate building. So hashtag Safari Live and tell us something interesting about building, structure, if you're interested in biomimicry and the way in which we might be able to learn about different other structures within our human-built environment. So that's an incredible little bit of innovation, and we can see that, you know, we can just walk outside our door to understand that the genius of the natural world can help us become sustainable and more efficient in our own lives. So I'm just going to start the car. Whee! I'm going to put my earpiece back in my ear so that I'd be able to hear your lovely questions from around the world. Welcome back, everyone. Safari Dean, fantastic question. The question was, do we ever look at weaknesses in the natural world to see if we can learn from within our human-built design? And you know, I haven't actually thought of it in that context. Everything out here has been built to the point where it can be efficient and become resilient in its ecosystem. So it's actually a strength. Most things, you know, if it seems like a weakness, it has to have some sort of strength to it. But it's a difficult answer because I've only ever really looked at something, whether it be a tree, and understood the way in which water goes from the bottom of the tree all the way to the top, or the way in which the tree has a Fibonacci sequence. If anyone understands what the Fibonacci sequence is, if we think about a little tree, we can understand that it comes out towards the sun in a spiral like this. So if you can imagine, the tree is coming out and it's trying to capture as much sunlight as it can in order to bring food to the tree, and at the same time it has like a funnel. If you look at most leaves, leaves are like this, and they're collecting the rainwater and bringing it down to its root systems, and therefore making the tree a lot more efficient and sustainable. So Safari Dean, I really admire that question, just because it's looking at it at another angle. You know, what are the weaknesses of the natural world that we can learn from? If you have something in your garden, something that you've seen that is a weakness that we can actually learn from, I would really like to hear what you have to say, Safari Dean. Thank you for that. With that, we can continue forward. And I think it would be important to explain where the term biomimicry comes from. It comes from a lady called Janine Benyus, who coined it. Janine Benyus, who is from America. You can find her, look her up. She is the person that coined it. So she's incredible. I've never met Janine, but I've read many of her books, and I really, really enjoyed her way and her perspective of understanding how we might see the natural world in a different way, a different perspective. And I don't know if you guys have much heard of Gregory Bateson. He's another person that has influenced my way of seeing ecology and the natural environment, because he saw everything in relationship to one another. I'm not sure if this is going to make sense to you, but if you look at my hand, you can just see the hand. When you see the hand, you just see the hand, but you don't see what makes the hand, which is the spaces in between. So what is it in relation to that helps it make it a hand, you know? And if this doesn't make sense, it's okay. I'm going to try and make it create more sense. What Gregory Bateson was saying was that the world is in relationship with each other, and that my hand is in relationship to the environment around it because of the space in between that makes it look like a hand. So when we look at everything, we can look at it from another angle. It's always important to see that, to try and understand how relationships are and how ecosystems work and how butterflies are in the ecosystem, and how a flap of a butterfly's wing on the other side of the world can influence something on the other side. So it's hugely interesting learning about other people's perspective of the natural world. Andy and Julia, hello and good morning to you. I'm so excited that you asked me this question about mycelium. They're asking, please tell us more about mycelium, and I'm glad you like it. It's something that I'm fascinated by it, you know, and from what I understand is that it's basically telling us that plants are intelligent. Plants are a lot more intelligent than we've given them credit for in the past, at least that I gave them credit for in the past. And learning about mycelium has really helped me understand that the interconnectedness of the natural world, and how the fungus connects parts of the ecosystems and helps spread nutrients. And if you have a look at mycelium, if you look it up on Google, you'll see it as a white little fungus growing that grows between the plants, and it's much like the internet of the ground that helps the ecosystem to become a lot more resilient. And as I was saying yesterday, you know, we only know that much about the world outside than the world inside. So what is the world beneath our feet, and how does it work, and how is it acting? And you know, obviously millions and millions of years ago we started with bacteria. So how did bacteria then grow and innovate itself into something new? And then how did it then innovate itself? So I'm just going to, just while we're here, we have a termite mound just to the left of us, which we can significantly see that is not active. Why is it not active? is because of the holes in the termite mounds to show that it's not. So the one that we were with a little bit earlier was closed up and patched up, and you could quite clearly see the difference in the soil coloration that helped show that as well. So this is an inactive termite mound. Just thought it'd be good to show you the relationship of that. But going back to mycelium, the natural world is a lot more intelligent than what we understand it, and the more that we immerse ourselves into that way of seeing, the better that we can just enjoy this planet, because we're not alone in this world. And that's been the most powerful thing for me over the last couple of years is sometimes you feel isolated and you feel like you're on your own, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. Sometimes I'm quite an introvert, so I come into myself and I feel like I'm alone. But since I've learned about the natural world, I've realized that there's so much more than just me, and I can connect with trees, I can connect with birds and flowers, and I'm not alone. This planet is so full of beauty and so full of life that it's so extraordinary when you start to see how beautiful everything is on this planet. And we live on this huge planet that's in the middle of space, and the stars, and understanding our relationship to our closest star. I mean, does anyone know what our closest star is in the night sky? Have you ever taken the time to have a look up there and be like, how far away is our closest star from our planet? As we know, the sun is the closest star to us, but then the next closest star is Alpha Centauri. I mean, Alpha Centauri, and the amount of light years that is away from us is something like 4.3 light years, which means that it takes, when I look up at the night sky and I look at Alpha Centauri, that light took 4.3 years just to get to my eyes. Okay, so we know that is quite a long time. So just to put that into another piece of perspective, it would take us 25,000 years in a rocket to travel to Alpha Centauri. So that is just one way in which we can see how big this universe is and how significant life is. I mean, like the universe, it blows my mind, because it makes me feel how a lot more significant we are, in terms of in the universe, but how insignificant we are at the same time. And if I just put my finger up into the sky like that, we can tell that just that area where my nail is something like 10,000 galaxies that are within that circumference of my nail, which is just fascinating. The fact that there's over 10,000 galaxies in that nail. But on that, there's not much stars to talk about in the daytime. We're going to go and see what James is doing. See you later.
Now, we found some female tracks going up the road where you left us, but they were old, and then there are male and female tracks on this road that we're on now. But I think the female tracks are from when Tingana and Tundi were walking along here a little while back. Yes, okay, I'm actually able to show this to you. Okay, let me go over here. This is what I think's going on. I am struggling, I must say, to interpret exactly what's happening. So that one you can't see, it's too close. You can see this one, Jean-Louis, right?
Yes.
There's a male track there. Now, if you look back a little bit, you might also be able to see this track here. And it's much less distinct, and especially in this light, it's probably a little bit difficult. But a beetle has walked over the top of that one, indicating that it's not perhaps as fresh as some of the others. But that's definitely a male. But there are one or two much smaller ones along here that are from a female. And I think they're a bit older, and I do know that Tanji and Tingana walked along this road in the midst of their sort of courtship a little while back. But I think that he's come along here too last night. I think he's headed to the water, he's had a drink. We did check where he was. We're going back sort of, we've done a loop. Treehouse Dam is over there. We did a loop around. We checked exactly where he was last night. The tracks eventually popped out onto this road that go back towards Treehouse Dam. And I think that he probably had a drink not too long after we saw him yesterday evening. He would have waited for the cover of darkness and then moved off down the road here. And I actually think, you know what, I'm seeing every so often, I'm seeing a small track. I wonder if it isn't because he's limping and he's just not quite putting his foot down properly. And that might be why we're seeing a smaller track that sometimes looks like it's a female. Definitely some female tracks further up the way there, but this is definitely a male. So this is definitely Tingana coming down here probably last night. Now, let's keep an eye out in the trees. Maybe he got lucky and killed something. Let's also keep an eye out in the undergrowth here, just for that subtle golden yellow sheen with a little bit of black spotting. And Annie, very good question. I mean, we had a similar inquiry yesterday, and we know that leopards have got the most catholic diets of any predator out here. In other words, they will eat just about anything. And Annie, you say, would he resort to catching much smaller things like insects if he couldn't find anything large to eat, or if he was too injured to catch anything big? Absolutely he would. Leopards are able to do that, probably far more than any other animals are. They will eat frogs, insects, fish, antelope, rodents, one-horned impala. There is a one-horned impala which does not look particularly disturbed by life, indicating that Tingana is either about to leap onto his back or not around here. Come on, Wendy, we want to see the impala. No, not going to work as a genre. Oh, there we go. That's not Nelson. Nelson, I fear me, has met his end. I haven't seen him for a long time. And he, of course, is the one-horned, one-eyed impala. Come on, Wendy. There we go. Ooh, very nice inquiry here. Now we know that these impala, one of whom is standing next to us here, this is actually quite interesting. We know that they are going into the rut now. They're starting to chase each other around. They're starting to herd the females. But look at this one and look under his tail. His testicles have not dropped yet. Now that's either an indicator that he's very young or that he has not been affected as much by the changing day length as some of the others. So James Richard, your question is, why is it that some of them go into this kind of rutting time earlier than others? How is it that some of them have started to rut now and others will only do it at the right time, sort of in the middle of May? And James, well, initially what causes the increase in testosterone is a change in day length. And why some of them should have slightly differing responses to the day length, I don't know. And I don't know if it will be consistent. So if perhaps this chap, you can see he's clearly not being affected by it. If his testosterone levels had gone up, his scrotum would have dropped down, his testicles would be much more obvious. And his neck would probably be a bit thicker by this stage. That hasn't happened to him yet. Will it be the same next year? I don't know. It's quite interesting. A very good question. So I'm not sure if if it's the same males who get to mate every year, the same males come into this time earlier than the others every year. I don't know. It's a very good question. Anyway, let's continue our little search for Tingana. And there is a lot of rutting that goes on around here, and of course we know that in the mammal kingdom nothing creates fightings amongst men more than women and females. And Monique, you were in London. There is a virtual starling. Just over there, Jean-Marie, if you don't mind. Sorry. Okay. That's called throwing the cameraman under the bus. Sorry about that. Monique, you want to know about the Nyala and do they fight? You say they look almost too dignified. They do, and they are almost too dignified. What you find is that they will normally just do a sort of dance around each other, this very balletic and dignified, slow dressage dance around each other. But if that doesn't have the effect, the desired effect of chasing off a rival, they will then fight. And the fight is impressive to watch. It is an incredible, I was describing it earlier, it looks like two fencers having a go at each other. Tap, tap, tapping their horns. Was that a little grasshopper he took away there? What was it? A piece of grass? For a nest, perhaps. Andre's not, he's not even speaking to me anymore. The term for the sword that the fencer uses, it's called a... Come on. It's in my mind somewhere. Somewhere in the recesses of my mind I remember the name. Foil. That's right, it's a foil. Haha. You didn't remember that, did you, Jean-Marie? Not that you would have told me because you're not speaking to me anymore. But, so if you watch a Nyala fighting, it looks like two fencers with rapidly moving foils, tap, 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 tapping against each other, and then eventually they'll find a gap and they'll charge in and they bash heads and lock together. It's a vicious and astounding and very kind of moving thing to see, Moni. But it doesn't happen often, you're right. They are normally far too dignified. Now the tracks don't come along this road. We'll go back along the road the other side of this drainage. I suspect what he did was he had his drink and then probably moved into the drainage line here to seek out shelter there. You can see that what I thought was breaking, I thought the cloud was going to disappear. Well, it hasn't really. It's kind of come over again. The wind has dropped slightly, but not as much as we'd have liked it to. Chandra, you haven't seen a leopard, have you? You will click at least. I know you're not talking to me, but you will at least click or wave. And I always struggle to say this Twitter handle without having a bit of a laugh. One second. Okay, we've got an inquiry about the wild dogs and if they're around. And the inquiry comes from, I don't know why I find it so funny this morning, from someone called Brazos Yak. There we go, I said it. Brazos Yak, you want to know where it is that the wild dogs are and have we heard anything about them? No, we haven't for the last little while. I'm not sure where they are, Brazos Yak. They were coming south about 4 days ago, but that seems to have, well, whatever southerly movement they were making has not continued on to Djuma or Arathusa. Wonderful Twitter handles that we get here. Nyala there. Trying to put the camera on the Nyala. We've got another question from someone called James's Hat. It's actually a really good question. Excuse me, sorry everybody. I'll hold it together eventually. James's hat. your inquiry, I don't know if I can answer because I think it's a good one. Why is it that reptiles, or not so many reptiles, why is it that mammals seem to be so dull-coloured? Although you could hardly describe those nyala as dull, but I do see what you mean. They're a kind of camouflaged red. And why are they that colour when so many birds are so obviously colourful, and indeed some reptiles are the same? Why are no mammals colourful like that? And I think the answer has got largely to do with camouflage and protection from predators. I think you find that birds that are brightly coloured are perhaps not as badly affected by the potential of being attacked by predators as would an obviously coloured mammal. Now, why would that be the case? Why is it that a lilac-breasted roller with its 7 different wonderful colours would be slightly less likely to be eaten by an avian predator, a bird predator, than would, say, a nyala by a ground-based predator? Such a good question, and I don't know. I think that you'll find, I mean, it's easy to tell why it would be easier for a ground-based predator to catch something like a nyala if it was the colour of lilac and blue. But why on earth would it be better for a bird to be coloured? I suspect it's got something to do with the fact that a bird is able to fly. It's easier, it can protect itself better. I suspect it's also got to do with the fact that many of the birds, predators are actually, they're not colourblind, so they can see colour anyway. That colour that you can see there to a lion very much blends in because they see in shades of green and red, which is, so that will be difficult for a lion to see. And I don't know, I'm going to have to think about that, but thank you very much for that. I love questions like that that make me think and that I can't really answer. Right, so we've had a talk of colourful birds. This goes across to some colourful butterflies. James's hat, enjoy those. I'll continue looking for the leopard and thinking about your question.
A beautiful butterfly just next to my car. You've spotted. I have absolutely no idea what the name of this butterfly is, but it doesn't really matter at the moment because I'm just looking at it and it's just got such beautiful colorations. I think it's white as it opens its wings. Hopefully it'll open its wings again, but it really is a magnificent butterfly. And if anyone knows the name of this butterfly, please will you hashtag Safari Live and inform me on the name of this butterfly, because I'm really not too sure. Me and Brian are a little bit baffled by the name of this butterfly, but it really is beautiful. And Brent Leo Smith is really, really good with his butterflies, so I'm going to try and remember. I'm taking a picture of it, and I'll see if Brent knows it, if no one else knows it. He's a big fan of the butterfly, and I am too. Well, I'm wanting to. I love butterflies, birds. Butterfly and birds definitely are something that I'm going to be taking a big liking to with Safari Live. Wow. Hopefully it'll fly off in just a little bit and we can get a really great sighting of this butterfly. Just while we're chatting about it, while we were sitting with the male Nyala earlier, I don't know if everyone was there with us or have just joined us now, but we sat with a male Nyala earlier, and I've just been told, I heard that James was with a female, which is incredible. I'm so glad everyone got to see the difference between the male and the female. But coming back to the butterfly, wow, you can see that white stripe, quite significant. Siberia Zumi, I've got a big fondness for everything, both great and small. But if I think about the things that I enjoy the most in terms of the small things, and something that I love a lot are both in Cape Town, you get really small plants like ericas and little birds that'll come in, like little sunbirds that come in and drink out of the ericas, and that's probably my favorite sighting to see when it comes to small things. But in terms of reptiles and small invertebrates, we were sitting with a shongololo yesterday, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. But now, even just sitting with this butterfly, now you can quite clearly see those two little white spots on the side of that wing. Incredible looking butterfly. So I'm growing. My fondness is growing for the smaller invertebrates of the Sabi Sands. When I was here, during my training a couple of years ago, I didn't have the time to really stop and look at the smaller things, because it was actually a little bit more important for my survival to learn more about how the leopards move and the way in which the elephants are. So I never really had the time to learn about that. But now that my knowledge base has increased by quite a lot, well, a bit more, I can now sit down with these beautiful butterflies and get to know them a bit better and see what their life cycles are like, and what type of caterpillar this came from. So if anyone knows actually what the name of this is and what the caterpillar that it came from, please hashtag Safari Live and help us get a better reading on this butterfly. Great. Spectacular view of that butterfly. We've had such an incredible morning, from the Nyala to the little dwarf mongooses that were running around, to the termite mound, and learning a little bit more about our ecology, the universe, and both things great and small. With that, I'm going to say thank you to the butterfly for that extremely incredible sighting. I hope that you have a great day, Mr. Butterfly, or Mr. or Mrs. Butterfly. Wow. So I'm learning my roads a little bit better. It's been quite difficult learning all the roads, but we are now on, I think it's Hippo Pools. We've just gone past Hippo Pools Dam, which was looking quite full. I mean, compared to the last time I was here, it was completely dry. Nothing. It was barren. And now I'm driving around, and the foliage has grown. The green is very, very luminous, and the waters are filled, and we need to go underneath the silver cluster leaf. Angie in West Clinton, am I a reptile fan? Yes, I am a huge reptile fan. Of course, it takes time to appreciate everything in its context, but I really am so interested by the way in which reptiles are, in terms of they're cold-blooded, most of them, and understanding how they are what we call ectothermic, which means they get their energy from the sunlight, and understanding how they collect their energy. I find that very fascinating. I mean, from a biomimicry point of view, we've learned about certain ways in which animals will connect to their landscape to try and collect sunlight. So it's fascinating. I mean, two little examples with a scorpion. A scorpion is fascinating by the way in which it actually survives in Namibia and different types of landscapes that are very, very dry. And basically it has these, well, dry and windy. So you just try and picture a really, really windy day in a desert, and you just see a scorpion running past you. Okay, what's so interesting and so efficient of the scorpion is that it has these little nodules on its back. So it's on a flat surface. It's got all these bumps, and these bumps help the wind to not, or it just makes it easier for them to walk and survive in that environment. So I'm fascinated by how, that was a little bit of a stop the car. It's okay, we can always just start it again. So I'm fascinated by how reptiles and other organisms survive in their environments. I mean, there's another beetle that's in the desert areas that is able to survive, and what it actually does, it's so fascinating. The beetle, to collect water in order to survive at about later in the evening when the dew comes to set in, it'll lift the back of its, the back of the beetle to a certain position which collects all the dew. So actually what's happening is water is being collected by the dew, and that will help sustain the beetle in the very dry conditions of the Namibian or of the deserts. And that design of the back of that beetle is actually being replicated in parts of the Sahara to try and bring water to communities. So incredible. We know that there's a problem with water worldwide, and we can go to a little beetle in the Saharan desert and ask it, how do you collect your water? And by doing so, we can learn how to look after and sustain ourselves, which is fantastic news. Yeah. Chain B. Yes. I knew that the question was that I know in the Arctic that the sunflower cannot follow, it doesn't grow there because it cannot follow the sun, and it's always sunny, or it's always winter in the Arctic, so it can't do that. So I knew that the sunflower actually follows the sun, but I didn't know that it didn't grow there, which is great. Thanks for sharing that with me, Jen. It's fascinating how sunflowers are able to follow the direction of the sunlight during the day in order to maximize its efficiency to sustain itself. So thank you for sharing that, Jen. Incredible how life works on this planet. Incredible. I'm still yet to go to the Arctic. That's one of the places in the world that I'll find my feet. Hopefully my feet can get to one day, unless I can swim there. But yeah, swimming there is going to be quite tough. Probably be quite cold at the same time. Ooh. Wow. Wow. Wow, guys, beautiful. So on the right of us we have female kudu. So you'll often find the groups of kudu will be together. But look at it, how beautiful that little yaksa is that we're looking in the screen. Look at those ears, they're so big. It's like they can literally hear anything in any direction. That's what helps them so much when they're in the secretive areas where they can pick up on those different sounds. Look, she's moving her ears in different, she heard something and she's feeling uncomfortable, so she's going to leave. But that's one of the most important, that hearing is so important for them. Wow, beautiful animals. You can see those stripes on the back of them. And the males are a little bit bigger, and they have huge horns when you see a kudu. Fantastic sighting of the female kudu there. Gregarious group of them. The question that I had a little bit earlier was, how long does it take for a termite mound to be built? Cassandra, and that's a great question. I'm actually not quite sure, because we were just looking at a termite mound over here. And this termite mound over there is quite old, and so I'm actually not sure at how long it takes for a termite mound to be built. It would be a fascinating thing to actually film over a long period of time to see how it's built. So that's a great question. But what's fascinating about termite mounds at the same time is that they provide such an advantage for the bush. You'll find all types of predators will come and stand on top of a termite mound and look over the savanna and to see what types of animals they can see. In context of the termite mound, I'd love to share a story with you. It's actually my favorite story in the bushveld, that in the savanna where I was taught when I was tracking when I was doing my training. And basically what happened was I was walking the southern perimeter of one of the reserves I was working at, and I found tracks of cheetah. And I was so excited. And as I was walking the tracks, I came around one of the guarri bushes, which I'll show you a guarri bush a bit later. It's a small, thick bush. And I came around the bush, and two beautiful sub-adult cheetah were sitting on the termite mound, and they hadn't seen me.
And it was incredible. I just sat behind this bush and watched these beautiful cheetah on a termite mound looking over the savannah. And I sat there for about, it must have been less than, I was really lucky because the wind wasn't going in my direction, so they couldn't smell me, basically. And so I could spend a couple of seconds with them, but as soon as they saw me, they looked at me, and I just thought they would run away. But they didn't. They didn't run away. They were very, very calm. And that is, like, if I think about the one experience of my life that has changed me, was that. And the cheetahs just sat there, and I sat there with cheetah for about 2-3 minutes before I called it in on the radio and told them that I just located the sub-adult cheetahs. So termites provide a very crucial role to the ecosystem. Not only do they provide food to many of the species, but they provide vantage points where they could look over the savannah and try and find kills out there. So it's been an incredible journey learning a little bit more about the termite mounds. Hopefully we can learn a little bit more in the future. With that, let's go and see what James is up to. See you later.
So I've just come down sort of towards this drainage line here to see if I couldn't find any further tracks. There were 1 or 2 tracks along the road, quite indistinct, which indicates to me that they've had a whole night of the wind blowing over them. So unless he's gone to ground pretty close to where we last saw him, which I think is unlikely, that was the door closing, I think it's unlikely given that he has walked down here, and obviously walked down here quite soon after we last saw him. Anyway, while I was doing that, I saw these beautiful white flowers, and I wanted to pick one for you, but I'm not going to because there aren't many of them. Sorry, Jean-Andre, he's now pulling a face. But I'm going to smell one. Oh, it is the most wonderful smell, sort of a subtle jasmine-y type smell. And I mean, if there'd been a couple more than 3, I probably would have picked one. But there weren't that many, so I didn't pick a bloom for Jean-Andre. And apparently some of you are asking if Jean-Andre is perhaps tripping after he ate his gori bushes, or gori berries. He might be tripping, but that's certainly not a result of the berries that I gave him. I'm not tripping. There's actually very little out here that can be used as a hallucinogen. I think there's something called wild dacha. Dacha is the Afrikaans term for marijuana. You can apparently smoke the roots or something, and that will give you a little bit of a high. I have not tried that. And there are mushrooms, obviously. There are definitely mushrooms out here that have a psychedelic effect, but not much. None of the berries out here that I know of will produce any kind of narcotic effect. Jean-Andre's genetics, faulty as they are what give him the slightly narcotic effect that is his general demeanor. Now, the next place to check for tracks will be this junction where we are now. And I don't see any, to be honest. So let's say we did come down that road. I didn't see any tracks when we first came down it. So maybe he headed up in here. I don't know. We haven't got too much left of the drive. So we will, oh, there he is. He's on the road going up here. Okay, we'll just drive up here, see if we can't spot him. Tracking a leopard in these conditions is not easy at all. So there is a huge amount of blind luck involved. So if we find him, we will be lucky, but at least we know we're in the general vicinity. And we also know that he's moving, and that's great, because that means he's probably not quite as badly injured as we thought he was. Jean-Andre, look over there quick. Thank you. I just wanted to change my hat, everyone, and I didn't want Jean-Andre to show you my bald spot. Here we are. Am I plugged in? No, I'm not plugged in. Sorry, I wondered why I wasn't hearing Kirsten McLennan-Smith and her deeply KwaZulu-Natal accent in my ear. There we go. I'm plugged in again. And people are making this stuff up. Somebody called Safari Cheesecake has just asked a question, and it's a good one. The Twitter handle is wonderful. Thank you. Keep them coming. They really do amuse me profoundly. I'm going to go down. Am I? No, I'm not. I'm going to keep going up this road. Safari Cheesecake. You want to know about keystone species and whether there are any plants that could be described as keystone species. Well, let's just quickly go back for those who perhaps are unfamiliar with the term keystone species. A keystone species is basically a species that, if you were to remove it, would create a collapse of the ecosystem or create a really profound change in the ecosystem. And it's difficult to describe. I mean, it's kind of a continuum, so it's not always obvious what would be a keystone species. There might be a bacteria out here that, if you were to remove it from the system, would completely collapse it. Elephants are an obvious example, and Safari Cheesecake, you used elephants as an example. If the elephants were not in this area at all, the vegetation would change profoundly. I think it would get a lot thicker. Certainly the trees may get a lot taller, and there would be more tall trees that wouldn't, because the trees wouldn't get pushed over by elephants. I think you could describe human beings as a keystone species, but Safari Cheesecake, your question is an interesting one in that, are there any plants that could be described as keystone species? And I'm going to say, not obviously. If you were to remove, for example, all of the marula trees in the area, if they were to collapse, if the marula population were to collapse completely, would it make a massive difference to all the other plants and animals out here? Well, no, I don't think it would. There aren't any animals that, well, I'm sure there's the odd specialized insect that eats only marulas, but there is certainly no browsing antelope or browsing large herbivores that I know of that only eat marulas. Would it affect the elephants? Yes, I mean, they do enjoy the fruit, and they do get a huge amount of nutrition from the fruit during the course of the summer months. But would it cause some kind of collapse in the population? No, they just substitute it with something else in the diet. So I'm not sure that there are any plants out here that could be described as keystone species. Maybe you could describe some of the fig trees as keystone species, in that, were they to disappear, then the associated wasp species that cannot survive without them would also disappear. But when we talk about a keystone species, it basically does mean a species that affects the entire ecosystem. So elephants, an obvious one. Lions would make a difference. Human beings would make a difference. Were you to remove the termites, but you remember now, termites are not only one species. Termites are many hundreds of different species. Were you to remove the fungus, the termite, the mound-growing Macrotermes natalensis? Yes, I would say they are a keystone species. That would change the ecosystem profoundly. Wonderful question, Nat. Thank you. It's a really good one. That I think it's probably got everything to do with predation. So we're going to look around here, see if we can't find further tracks of an elephant. Before we do that, I'm going to move this rock, and I'll tell you why I'm going to move this rock. This rock, as many of you know, most of you know now because you've heard it a few times, was placed here by elephants. Elephants like to play with rocks sometimes, but every time I come past it, I'm tempted to retell you the story that Jamie told you some time back. So I'm just going to move it quickly out of the way. It is not a light rock. There we go. Now I shan't be tempted to repeat myself and bore you all to tears. I'm seeing stars, Jean-Marie. It's very pretty. I'm genuinely seeing stars. I think I overstrained myself slightly. There's one now just above my... Yeah, there we go. There we go, they've gone now. There we go. I'm plugged in, Kirsten. That was a very bizarre feeling. happens when the blood pressure drops. Now, those birds were very cross about something. There's a predator in here, a snake perhaps. The first thing to look at is that crested barbet, beautiful crested barbet there. Red and orange and yellow. Oh, and a rattling cisticola there at the bottom with him. No, it's not a rattling cisticola, that's tawny flanked prinia, I think. It is a tawny flanked prinia. It's got a little caterpillar in its mouth. I think this is just a bird party, a feeding party. See that? That is awesome. Oh, that's fantastic. It's just beating that caterpillar to death, probably knocking off or breaking up the exoskeleton, which will make it easier to digest. But you can hear a few of those prinias in there. Now, a few of you, while we watched that prinia eating his caterpillar, a few of you were saying, are birds not coloured like that for attraction? Yes, to a large extent they are. But the question remains, why is it that no mammal has developed in the same way? Although we do have sexually dimorphic mammals, like the nyala, they're not colourful. They're still camouflaged, even though they're very different colours from the females. Why are they not colourful? And, I mean, if you look at a peacock's tail, or that paradise wider's tail, they are an encumbrance to the male bird, and so they're an indicator of fitness to the female. If it can survive having such an encumbrance, then it must have good genes and good strength. I suspect you'll find that in the mammal world, let me see if the prinia is sitting on this bit of log here. In the mammal world, everyone, that's wonderful. In the mammal world, what you find is that that kind of encumbrance, that kind of obvious coloration that would make you more obvious to predators would be impossible to maintain. You'd just be eaten. So I think because possibly the predatory pressure is greater on the mammals, they have not evolved that kind of coloration. That would be my guess. Very nice. Thank you for that. Let's head across to Sam. He's got some more colourful things to show you.
They saw what they were looking at. We live. Hello everyone. Here we are. I've got a big bottle of water, as you can see, and I've got lots of cords hanging out of me, which is not very good. So I'm just going to put those in my pockets. Water, electricity is never a good thing to put together. But you know what's good to put together? It's water and a beautiful flower. So I'm gonna over here we have a beautiful flower, and it's called the devil's thorn. If I'm mistaken, it should be the devil's thorn. I'm just gonna break off a little piece here. So I'm just gonna get a good shot there. Have a look at that beautiful flower, everyone. So this morning we've had such an incredible morning in terms of designs and looking at just different colorations, from the nyala that we saw this morning to the kudu and that beautiful butterfly, and now we're sitting with a devil's thorn, which is definitely one of the most beautiful flowers in the bush. And the reason why I picked up and took a little piece off this is because in my training, if I remember correctly, that it makes quite a funny substance. I wish you could be here with me to put this into your hands and see what it does. So what I'm going to do is, you take a little piece of this, I'm going to rub it on my hand. I'm going to pour some water on my hand. This could be really awkward if it's the wrong, flower. It's the right flower, everyone. Fantastic news. So when you use the plant of the devil's thorn, it makes a very, very very, very lubricant. That's the right word. It's a very, very good lubricant that they used many, many years ago for different things. And so it just came into my memory, and I wish you could be here and I could rub it into your hands and you could feel this lubrication. It's really, very significant. It's really nice on the hands as well. I almost want to do it again, but I'm not going to kill all the plants just so that I could have lubricants all over my hand. So that was the devil thorn. Very, very beautiful flower with a lubricant part of it. And with that, I'm going to get back in my vehicle with a big bottle of water, and we're going to carry on. You know what we haven't seen a lot of this morning is the different types of bird species. And I know the viewers, well, you out there would like to be seeing more birds and helping me get this bird list together, because it definitely needs to grow a little bit more, and so I can build my knowledge of the bush a bit better. So this is Rusty, everyone. Rusty, this is the first time I'm driving Rusty today, so I'm still trying to get to know her a little bit better and understand the way in which she works. She works in many, many different ways compared to our other friend Wendy. And there we go, so that I can hear questions from you guys. We are connected, and we can go. Awesome. That was a beautiful devil thorn that we've just found. First time I've seen the devil. Ooh, aren't we lucky? Over here, I'm just going to get into a better position. There's another beautiful flower. This one, I know what it is, but I think it is a foxglove. It's a foxglove. It's very similar looking to the wild sesame, but that's the foxglove, and you often find that in England. So where I was living in England last year, there were quite a few foxgloves that I would find in some of the gardens in England, and they are beautiful, aren't they? Very, very beautiful flowers. Hey? It's incredible. I think, you know, they've also got a very, very nice smell to it. So I wish I get out. They have a really, really, really nice smell. So when you do come to the Sabi Sands one day, take the time to get your hands nice and lubricant on the devil's thorn, smell the foxglove, and take a big breath of fresh oxygen here in the Sabi Sands. The Sabi Sands, if I'm just saying Sabi Sands all the time, is 60,000 hectare property just next to the Kruger National Park. We are traversing on Djuma, which is around 1,000 hectares, and I worked many years ago. Ooh, hornbill. We can add that to our list. Yes. Fantastic news, everyone. Okay, so that is a yellow-billed hornbill. Actually thought that we had that, but we don't have that. Maybe we had it and I didn't write it down. Silly me. Shouldn't be making mistakes out here with our bird book, but I'm just going to write it down quickly. Let's have a look at what he's doing. See that significant yellow bill, and this cousin is the red-billed, very, very, very similar looking. And then we also get the grey hornbill, which I always remember sounds like a crying baby when I hear its call. That's how I used to remember the sound of the grey hornbill. So we've seen the yellow, and hopefully in our morning we haven't got much time left, but maybe we can see the red-billed. But I'm just going to write down red-bill, yellow-billed, hornbill. There we go, everyone. Sorted. You'll often find the hornbill feeding on butterflies. We actually saw that this morning. Hey, Brian, we saw a beautiful sighting of a hornbill catch a butterfly in the air and eat it. So So yes, butterflies are beautiful, but they also provide an important source of food to many of the birds in the bush here. Megan on Twitter. Megan, please tell me where you're from, because I would love to know where you're from. Are you my friend Megan in Cape Town? Because I know she might be watching, and if you are, hello Megan. Her question was, are there any moth species? I think that was the question. In here, yes there are. M-O-F-F, moth. M-O-F-F. I have no idea actually, to be quite honest with you. Yes, moss species. Are there any moss species? Okay, moss, not moth or moth. Moss. Yes, there are moss species. If we go and find some of the rocks, we can find some moss species. I generally find them on rocks. Hopefully if we find some rocks, we can see if we can identify some moss out here in the Sabi Sands. But just ahead of us, first time viewing a wildebeest with everyone. Yeah, how exciting. Look at that beautiful male wildebeest. We know it's a male because it's holding its territory here, and just in front of it is a beautiful impala. So we're getting to know the bushveld a little bit better, as we know that they love to live together. They don't mind being in each other's space. They're not going to get angry with each other. They like to be there. And the wildebeest is one of my favorite antelopes, and it's an incredible animal because of its structure. Look at that structure of the wildebeest. It's been designed for, it's something to do with a pattern. A pattern? No, that's not going to help you. Something that wildebeest, the only thing I'm going to say is something that wildebeest are very, very well known for in Africa. The way in which they are built is known for a very particular thing that they do in Africa. If you know the answer, please hashtag Safari Live, and we can talk about it a little bit further. So that was a wildebeest, everyone. How exciting. We've seen so much this morning. I mean, we haven't seen any predators such as lions or leopards, but we've seen beautiful, beautiful little insects. We've seen some beautiful flowers, and we've seen the sexual dimorphism of the nyala, and that's something that's always incredible to note and have a look at it, and see how a female and a male can look so significantly different. And with that, let's have a look and see what James is up to. See you all now.
I'm afraid, everybody, I have found no further sign of Tingana. We've done a big loop around and we haven't found anything. So I think we're just going to continue on our way. We might be lucky in the next little while. I don't think he would have gone too far, but maybe he has. Maybe he's sought refuge in the Mlulwati drainage line, which is, of course, the main river that goes through the middle of Djuma. Anyway, so it goes. We're now driving along the Philemon's cut line. I'm not entirely sure who Philemon was, save to say that he must have been quite a fellow, because he's got two roads named after him, not two names roaded after him, two roads named after him. And it's a bit of a fire break, this cut line, and that means that either side of it we've got these clearings where there are some just beautiful grasses growing. Here's this plant. I just want to pick a piece of this plant. Let me go. I'll go there. Those ones there. Now, the thing about this plant is that it smells vile. It smells like diesel. The actual flower is not too bad, but the leaves, ugh, that's really unpleasant. Try that. Smell that, everybody. Take a deep breath. What do you think it tastes like? Smells like. Don't eat it, please. You will eat anything, I know. Diesel?
Brent's feet.
Brent's feet. Brent's feet are more like a Stilton cheese, I find. This is more kind of, it's got a kind of really oily kind of smell to it. And I'm sure it's a protection against being eaten, but look at how pretty the flower is. See? Lovely purple anthers and white flowers. White flowers normally smell quite nice, and this one doesn't actually smell of anything. There you are, Jean-Ray. And I don't know what it's called. I've never managed to find it, and it's all over the place. So I shall have to do a little bit more research. Maybe, Judy H is watching. Judy H, you are my resident flower genius, and I wonder if you know what that is. Smells like diesel, very pretty flower. And I know you were watching earlier, so if you do know what that is, please let me know. I will endeavour to find it in a flower book a little bit later on. We're just going to look over to the east there into that sort of cloudy sky and show you that this front is not lifted yet, but it is still very pretty. I think next week we're going to have some fairly nice, the best kind of weather you can have out here, this autumnal, warm, but not too hot, still days with deep blue skies. I think we're going to have some of that next week. Well done, John Ray, that was a difficult sighting for you. Now, what we saw earlier was an eastern paradise wider with a very long tail. And another common group of birds in South Africa that have those long sorts of tails are the widow birds. And monkey man, all the way from Australia, you want to know if we get those widow birds here. Monkey man, we do get them here, but only after really large amounts of rain. We'd get two species, the red-shouldered widow and also the white-shouldered widow. And what I will do is quickly show you a picture of them, because otherwise it's going to be completely meaningless to most of you. And I've pretty much given up on my tracking at this stage because I think, we don't have much time left. So the red-shouldered widow is neither of those, none of those. The red-shouldered widow is that one there. And you can see they've got that longish tail. We don't get the red-collared widow. I mean, I imagine they've probably been seen here once or twice, but not often. So those are the two there. The red-shouldered and the white-winged. The red-shouldered and the white-winged. Now, why this one here should be called white-winged as opposed to yellow-shouldered is anyone's guess. Typical, of course, of the namers of birds. That they name birds by the most indistinct part of them. I'm just going to show you one more example, that being the black-collared barbet, whose most obvious feature is in fact his bright red head. So why on earth, you tell me, why this bird here is called the black-collared barbet and not the red-headed barbet, I just cannot imagine. Anyway, so it goes. I think sometimes scientists like to be obscure, so laymen like you and I don't know what's going on. Also quite a good one. Those of you who've got sort of, I'd say 100 or more birds, then you will not be fine. You probably will have got the tawny flanked prinia, but those of you sitting on under 60 or so, quite likely you haven't got the tawny flanked prinia, and very likely you didn't have the eastern paradise wider that we saw earlier today. Not really good for birding, this sort of weather. So old Sam's bird list, I suspect, because he started driving in fairly miserable weather, Sam's bird list is going to explode to life as soon as next week's heat comes about. I think you and he will discover a whole lot of new birds when the weather improves and hopefully the insects come out. Now this afternoon I expect the weather to be much the same, but oh, hang on. What is that, Chandri? It is a hyena, the tracks of a hyena coming straight out of this block, going down the road. We did follow that hyena a little bit earlier. Well, we followed his tracks, going towards, interestingly, where Tingana was last night. No tracks of lions, as I said, which is, I don't know where that Nkahuma prize has gone. They'll probably pop up on Simbambili. They so often go into that block where they were. We look around and then we don't see them. Somehow they fly across and they pitch up at Simbambili. Okay, that's it from Jean-Andre and I this morning. Thank you, Jean-Andre, for your efforts today. Thank you so much. I'm not sure if he's ever going to talk to me again. Big thank you to Kirsten and Rebecca in the final control. We'll hand you back to Sam Chevalier and Brian for the last little bit of the drive, and we'll see you this afternoon at 3:30. Bye-bye.
4 drives at Safari Live. It's been very exciting, everyone. I've had such a fantastic time. It's been, the first 2 were nerve-wracking. The second 2 have been getting more comfortable as I move around. It's great, being back in the Sabi Sands, back in the bush, back with, people that love what I love. That's the most important thing, is the environment that I'm living in, with people that really appreciate and have that love and respect for the natural world. It's just great to be immersed and around that. And it's been a fantastic morning. We've seen such incredible things. Really, we have. I mean, I've still got lots to learn about the way in which things are interacting within this ecosystem, but what a pleasure to be able to learn more and to sit with people that have been here for a long time and get to know it a bit better and see what my relationship is to it. I'm sure we're going to have many experiences over the time that we have here. We've got lots of time together, and we'll learn more about the way in which the environment will work. Yo, Aqua. If I wrote a book, what would it be about? Yo, that's such a nice question. Thank you, Aqua. I've been wanting to write a book for a long time. I wanted to write I wanted to write a book on a fiction book, which was about children's relationship to the natural world, which would have been, it would have been fiction, something like that. But that was a long time ago. If I had to do something now, it would be more along the lines of our relationship to the natural world in terms of, how do we not only cognitively understand the natural world, but intuitively and sensorily. So I think, the title of the book would be the direct experience and how that changes us. So we're going to try and find one word about, how different animals, how different trees, how learning about the atmosphere, learning about how the cosmos and how it all interacts and interconnects with one another. How our relationship to ourselves, our relationship to the moon, to the cycles of everything. I think that's the one thing that mankind really needs, in my opinion, of course, is that it's just a better thank you. But anyway, on that point, I'm going to say goodbye to you now. I just want to send a big thank you to the directors there with Kirsty and Rebecca and whoever else is there. Brian has been behind the camera. He's been a really, really good person, not only behind the camera, but he's been at business. As you can see with this tie, he really is a great person. I want to say thank you to James, who's been amazing out here. It's just been fantastic. Have a beautiful day. We'll see you later, and lots and lots of love.